Good evening. It is an honor to be here at the Military Ball 2006 in Santa Barbara, California with General P.X. Kelly, our guest of honor this evening. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. I'm so glad to be here.
Well, it's an honor to have someone that has led the Marine Corps be here speaking to those that have served us so well. Can you tell us what the military balls mean to you as in your service and in your retirement?
Well, I think this one in particular, because the orientation is on the greatest generation. And as you probably do know, or may not know, that I was in charge of building the World War II Memorial in Washington. And my father died in World War II, and I, too, was a member of the greatest generation as a junior air raid warden in Boston, Massachusetts. So it means a lot in terms of the nature of the ball.
Well, we certainly do honor the greatest generation, and we're also very, very proud to have Marine Color Guard and a number of Marines here that are serving in active duty today, and we look forward, sir, to your presentation later today.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for having me here.
It's an honor, sir. Thank you very kindly.
Sit down and take my accolades and shut up. However, I do have a few messages I'd like to at least try out tonight. When I arrived, someone said to me, "Have you ever served under General Fuller?" That's Chesty Puller, who is renowned in the Corps, 5 Navy Crosses, tremendous reputation. But I have not served. I had not served under General Puller. But I had the privilege as a young brigadier general of escorting his wife to a Marine birthday ball. And Mrs. Puller, a very charming lady from Saluda, Virginia, with a classic sort of syrupy southern drawl, said to me as we were sitting having our dinner, she said, "You know, General Kelly," she said, "everybody knows Ma Lewis as a great warrior. I got to tell you something, General, he was a hell of a lover, too." Now match that one if you can. The interesting part about being the Irishman of the Year for Southern California, I was called by Tony O'Reilly, who was the chairman of the American Island Fund, and asked if I would be the Irishman of the Year for Southern California. And I said, "Mr. O'Reilly, let me see if I have this straight. I was born and brought up in Boston. I went to college in Philadelphia. I live in Washington, D.C. Have you run out of Irishmen in Southern California?" He didn't answer me. Someone mentioned tonight how many years they were married, and I'm sad, it's not sad, but I'm sad that Barbara's not here, because in March we celebrated our 55th wedding anniversary. And this was a college sweetheart, and who suffered with me for 37 years of active duty, and who unfortunately is not here because we had out-of-town guests for Thanksgiving dinner, but also she's been having an eye operation come Monday, so we thought it was probably best that she stay home. I can't possibly tell you how deeply honored I am, seriously, to be with you tonight and joining you for this 2006 military ball. I think particularly since it's dedicated to the greatest generation. And I'm going to tell you why. But first of all, let me tell you about my relationship and Barbara's relationship with Senator Barbara. Barbara had a long relationship. Her uncle was a professor of history at UCSB. She unfortunately, right before I was sent to Vietnam in my first tour, she unfortunately had child and her only living relatives lived in Santa Barbara. So with my going overseas and not knowing what that would ever bring, she decided to come out and so she would be with her relatives in the event anything happened to me. So she stayed here for a year and loved it, loved every bit of it. You've heard of my association with the Rancheros. Tony Merrill is sitting over there, knows of my association with the Merrills. I think they with the Rancheros. I think they fired me, didn't they, Tony? No. Several people I want to thank. I want to thank Cy Jenkins and his lovely wife Karen. I should thank Karen for loaning me Duke. The Duke is her favorite mount and one that I use on all of my RV trips. And a special thanks to the Blankenships for all they did to get me here. They were the engines of this evening, and wonderful engines they are. And Hazel and John, I thank you seriously from the bottom of my heart. When Tom Brokaw first published The Greatest Generation, there were some from other generations who felt that they too are an important part of our history. And of course they are, and I salute for what they have done and accomplished for our beloved country. However, as history will show, World War II, on the other hand, touched every man, woman, and child, and there were 180 million of us at the time. President Roosevelt said it dramatically in his famous speech in the aftermath of Pearl Harbor, when he said, "We are now in this war. We are all in it. Every single man, woman, and child is a partner in this, the most tremendous undertaking of our American history." John Keegan, the noted English historian, said the Second World War was the largest single event in human history. It was fought across 6 of the world's continents and all of the world's oceans. It killed 50 human beings, left hundreds of millions wounded in mind and body, and materially devastated much of the heartland of civilization. In the United States, 16 million, or 10% of our population, served in the uniform of their country. Many, I might add, had not yet become citizens. And in my duties as the chairman of the Battle Monuments Commission, I used to love to wander through the cemeteries, our cemeteries overseas, up and down the rows of crosses, and stop and pause and look and say, "Who are you? Who are you? You gave your life for the country. Could you have been the President of the United States? Or could you possibly have been someone who found a cure for cancer? But who are you?" In one speech I remember very well, I recited, at a gathering, I recited the famous poem, Trees. Most of you, I think, will probably remember Trees. Joyce Tillman's famous poem. Well, Joyce Tillman is buried in one of our cemeteries overseas, and the irony of it all was when I was putting together my remarks, I suddenly realized that Joyce Tillman was killed in the Battle of the Ourcq River in France in 1918, and my own father was a rifle company commander in the Rainbow Division, the same unit that he served in. And I encourage all of you, if you ever can do it, take the time. Those pristine cemeteries overseas are well worth seeing. There's something to behold, and certainly, as we all know, Normandy being the one that is most famous, we are putting up an interpretive center there, and we'll tell you the whole story of the European War. But going back to the Greatest Generation, I'm not sure you all realize that there were 400,000 who were either killed in action or died of wounds from our country. 400,000. 671,000 more were wounded, and as of today, very sadly, Very sadly, 78,000 remain missing in action. From 1939 to 1945, our industrial base produced 304,000 aircraft. Of that number, we lost 60,000 aircraft in combat. I mention these numbers because we are mesmerized daily by the media, who every little nitpick of what's going on in the war is pounded and pounded and pounded. And we realize that our heritage really is based on some very startling and significant figures: the loss of life and devotion to duty. We also lost 157 surface combatant ships and 866 merchant vessels. The losses were significant. Meanwhile, at home, we mustered millions on the home front, and I'm proud to say that as a 12-year-old, I was a junior air raid warden in Boston, Massachusetts. My first duty was to stand watch in a makeshift cupola atop of a local American Legion post and report aircraft sightings. Tremendous responsibility. But it was a lot of fun because, as Dan Burnham will know, or knows, it's not a pleasant task to stand out in the open on a cold winter night in Boston. My second responsibility was to walk through the neighborhood at night and tell residents that their blackout curtains were leaking light. Not always a welcome revelation, I might add. In addition to this, we had gas and food rationing, black paint on the top half of our headlights, 35-mile-an-hour speed limits, but thank God, no nightly television. If we had the same technology as we have today, chances are that some of us might be speaking either German or Japanese. In this regard, think of it. Iwo Jima, 37 days on a 7.5 square mile island. 8,000 killed and 19,000 wounded. But lest we forget, the value by war's end, 2,251 B-29 bombers made emergency landings on Iwo Jima, representing over 25,000 flight crew members who otherwise might have perished. Aside from the military victories in World War II, there was some very, very significant social benefits. First, and those are the ones that integrated our regional, cultural, ethnic, and religious groups, and literally changed the whole basic fabric of our country. Young men from Paducah shared foxholes with some from New York. Young men from the hills of Tennessee shared Higgins boats on Omaha Beach with young men from Arkansas. And young men from Vermont clawed their way up Mount Suribachi with young men from Georgia. The other social benefit was the GI Bill of Rights, perhaps the most important social program in the history of our country, for it gave heretofore unthinkable opportunities to millions, literally millions of young men and women. But let me dwell for a moment, if you'll bear with me, on my background. On July 7, 1943, at Fitzsimmons General Hospital in Denver, a 14-year-old boy was given official orders telling him to escort his father's remains to a final resting place in a place called Boston. On that day, a beautiful, beautiful Irish immigrant mother earned a title she did not seek, but she later revered, as she became a Gold Star wife. And so I know firsthand the pain and suffering a family feels when a precious member is taken from it, particularly in wartime. So you see, that young boy was me, and that father was mine. This may be the right time for a moment to call out, or fall out. When my father died, my mother gathered her 4 children and cautioned them It's something that has lived with me for all of my life. And she said, you can always look back. And from time to time you should. But don't stare. Your life, your future is ahead of you and not behind. So with that in mind, I don't think you invited me to come here all the way from Washington just to look back. So I'd like to play a little game with you. It's a game called POTUS. Some of you will recognize the name POTUS. POTUS is the acronym used in the White House to identify the President of the United States. POTUS. I always used to say, isn't it a hell of a note to think that the chief executive of the most powerful nation on earth is a POTUS? Not very, very flattering. But before we proceed, let me give you a short primer. I want to make this a little more current. A short primer on the world of Islam, because I think a lot of us have forgotten what this world is and was for many centuries, and it was at the forefront of our civilization. And they believed, and still believe, that at their borders were barbarians and infidels. It's part of their culture, and at one time the Muslim world was the greatest military power on earth and the foremost economic power in the world. And make no mistake about it. So what does the world of Islam look like today? Christianity, as we know, I'm sure, consists of 1 billion souls, roughly 32% of the world's population. Islam is a close second at 1.2 billion, or 20%. Ethnically, it is roughly 77% Arab and 18% Kurdish. As far as religions go, 97% are Muslim and 67% are Shias or Sunnis. In Iraq, there are close to, today as we see it, there are close to 20,000 terrorists with scores of armed caches that were left by the Saddam Hussein's regime. That estimate, to just give you some idea of the magnitude, that estimate is now looked at some 600,000 tons of ammunition somewhere around Iraq. So it gives you an idea. They don't have to import IEDs. They've got them ready and available. Profiles show that these are young men. These are not thugs. They're young men in their 20s and 30s. They're well educated, many with college degrees, some married. In other words, they're a very, very serious threat. And I believe, and I firmly believe, it is just a matter of time before they do have in their hands weapons of mass destruction. So that is something that I think we have to think about. Now, you're POTUS, and you're sworn in on the 20th of January 2001. In the military force structure, you have to construct a worldwide national strategy. And think of these numbers. Roughly 1/2 of what your father had for the Gulf War. You have 10 Army divisions, not 18. You have 300 surface combatant ships, not 600. You have 12 Air Force tactical fighter wings, and you have a Marine Corps that's some 30,000 less than what George Herbert Walker Bush had for the Gulf. Now let's fast forward 8 short months. While you're still awaiting confirmation of the bulk of your cabinet, suddenly the evil, brutal, cowardly forces of terrorism callously murdered 3,000 innocent civilians. The pain and anguish of this historic assault on the United States, your intelligence tells you that in their analysis, Saddam Hussein, who has previously used weapons of mass destruction, is now rapidly developing a nuclear capability. This information is confirmed by Tony Blair and by Vladimir Putin, although subsequently parts of it may be found to be erroneous. That's what you were faced with when you were making your decisions. What happened in the subsequent actions is not material when you're making a decision because you don't know what's going to happen in the subsequent action. Do you question this, or do you question this intelligence? Is that proven? Can anybody in your wildest imagination believe that the repercussions of such a thing, these repercussions would probably end up with thousands of people being killed, tens of thousands possibly? And what do you think Wolf Blitzer would say? Who would he blame? He'd blame POTUS, needless to say. So I think those are the things that POTUS was kind of faced with. You're still POTUS. You're still POTUS. And now your experts postulate a chilling scenario. What if, they say, Iraq and Iran both develop nuclear weapons? And recall they asked the vicious, almost subhuman conflict between these two countries in the early 1980s. What if, in the midst of this historical hatred, one side decides to employ a nuclear weapon against the other, and one can easily envision a nuclear holocaust in the Middle East, which would destroy the economic viability of the free world. Now, POTUS, what do? Well, my friends, let me tell you, we're living in a very dangerous world. So these are the things that the President and the government have to take into consideration. So let me just close this subject with a plea. I ask all of you here tonight, for the purpose of honoring the greatest generation, the reason we're here, I ask, no, I truly beg, that for the future of our children and our children's children, please keep in the forefront of your mind that we are currently engaged in a conflict with a potential for catastrophic consequences to our very way of life. And before closing, let me share some thoughts about my war. How many here fought in the Vietnam War? Show of hands. Thank you. Well, I believe that was one of the most difficult, controversial, and frustrating wars that we have had in our history. I think many people would agree with that. But let me shout from the highest mountain, let me say clearly for all to hear, that despite meddling by the White House, despite indecision by our Congress, despite cowardly draft dodging, despite despicable Hanoi joining, despite all of them, the soldiers, the sailors, the Marines, and the Coast Guardsmen who fought in the Stars and Stripes in Vietnam did a superb job. And they accomplished their mission. Their mission was to stop the growth of communism. And they stopped it. But the press does not give them any credit for anything that even closely approximates that. They stopped the growth of communism. They displayed to the world an awesome array of firepower and the ability to employ it. But most of all, they showed what courage, determination, and patriotism can accomplish on the battlefields. God bless them, each of them. My fellow Vietnam veterans, there can be no doubt whatsoever that one of the reasons why worldwide communism failed and the Berlin Wall came down was you. And no pathetic, inept, and apologetic former Secretary of Defense could ever change that. You accomplished your mission, and you did it despite him and his meddling cohorts, not because of them. Stand tall, be proud. You are patriotic Americans, and I salute you, each one of you. Now, the chaplain kind of stole my thunder when he talked but let me try to restore mine by talking about Semper Fidelis. There are two words, as he very articulately said, two special words that have been inspiring Marines for 231 years. Always faithful. And let me pose a serious question to each of you. Wouldn't it be a wonderful world if we were all Semper Fidelis to a God of our choice? Semper Fidelis to our beloved country, Semper Fidelis to our families, and Semper Fidelis to each other. So God bless each of you here with us tonight. God bless our armed services who so proudly serve. And God bless our beloved nation, the land of the free, but only so long as it remains the home of the free. Thank you.
Thank you, PX, for honoring us with your presence here tonight. It is impossible to adequately thank you, but we are sending you some Jarhead Red. It's just a very tiny gesture of gratitude from us. Thank you, all of you, for being here tonight. And now let's, hopefully we'll get the band back, and we'll have PX